What's going on, running fans, jumping fans, throwing fans, all around athletics fans? Welcome to Talking in Ovals. I'm Alex Cuesta, my partner in crime over there, Dave Hyatt. What's going on, brother?
U.S. Nationals are now done. It's going to be interesting to see how we do at Worlds as a USA. I thought it was pretty cool today that Thing Moo said, I'm not going 15. So girl who got fourth place steps in and goes. I'm glad that she didn't make her wait. I thought that was a pretty classy move. And we're going to go. It's going to be interesting to see, who gets picked for the 4x1 relays, 4x4 relays as, the alternates to run on those legs. And let's go. We had some pretty good and exciting races.
It was, it's almost like the tree in the woods, though. If 2 of the days weren't on TV, did they even actually happen? But we'll get into that a little bit later, because that I know is certainly a topic that I think grinds everyone's gears that has ever been involved with any sort of running. But before we get started, like, share, follow, subscribe, rate 5 stars on Spotify and iTunes. Spread this word of mouth. Find us on socials. Go look up Talking in Ovals. You'll see the logo. We are there. We interact. We say hi back. And today is Monday, July 10th of 2023. That's when we are recording. So, Hyatt, last week, we had another first on this show. We had our first ever high school athlete, and I don't think we could have gotten any luckier for having Emma Zawatsky on. She is a rising senior over in Freehold Township, and man, we could not have had a better first guest in terms of a high schooler, and she was fantastic. Everyone should go. She has a TikTok where she interviews other, pro athletes and things like that. So please go support her there. And
she was actually out at Hayward Field.
She was out of Hayward. Her brother was throwing in the U20. Yeah.
Yep.
So talented family, really good person. Go back and listen to that episode and support Emma. She's going to have a fantastic career. This week we have no PBs, no PRs. We had a week off. If you want to see some PRs, you should have definitely went and watched either Jamaican Nationals or U.S. Nationals. There was enough fireworks. So definitely go there. And we're going to jump into this show right away this week, Dave. This week, we have our guest, Vicki Huber-Rudawsky. She's a 2-time Olympian, 8-time NCAA champion, and a 1-time United States champion. Vicki, what's going on?
Hey, how are you guys?
Good. How is everything going with you?
Everything's good. It's weird to be interviewed. It feels like all that happened so long ago. It's like, I'm ancient history now. You had a high schooler on last week, and then you have an old timer on this week.
We love to mix it up. Like we just
have to pay homage to everyone who came before you, and it's an absolute honor.
Yeah. And, we want to have anyone. We want to have the greats. We want to have just casual runners. We want to have high school, college, pro, current, former pro, because, part of our mission for starting the show is that our runners don't get enough exposure. We don't have enough exposure. It's only when, you're an amazing great, you get big time exposure and very regional, small coverage, even when you're great in our sport. So the goal is to get you guys more exposure and even, like Dave said, pay homage to the people that paved the way for all of us. So I want to jump in right there.
Hold on, Alex. I had to give a shout out really quick to one of our former guests, Jeff Benjamin.
Oh, yes, Jeff.
Getting the Jeff Dunaway Award for Journalism Excellence. I mean, the guy has a vast knowledge of the sport. He's a great ambassador. And I mean, he forgets more about track than most people will ever know. And it's just so great that he got that honor, and it's so well deserved.
And he's everywhere. He's everywhere. Like, I don't know how he pops up everywhere and gets pictures with all the great runners.
Yeah, he's like, here's the pics with Seb Coe. Here's the pic with Eamon Coughlin. It's like, it's awesome.
I think it's easy because once you talk to Jeff, you realize his passion for the sport, and you realize why he's there. You realize that he's there because he loves the sport. And if Jeff writes an article about you, then it's pretty special because Jeff is a great dude. So yes, good call, Dave. He absolutely deserves that. So let's jump back to Vicki, though. Vicki, we do a segment at the beginning of all of our shows, and we're throwing you right into that as well. When did you get the spark to really be a runner? When was that aha moment that you can be a runner and do this for the rest of your life type of thing?
I definitely got a spark for it when I was younger. I did really back in my day, field day was actually field day where you had, races and you competed in high jump. And, if you had a really good gym teacher, they were actually like field day events. So I knew I was pretty fast then. And then my brother is 2 years older than me, and he ran track in junior high, and I just idolized him. I wanted to be just like him. So I was finally able to go out for track in 7th grade, and first race rolled around and I beat all the 9th graders on my team. And I think that was like, I kind of have pivotal moments in my career. And I think that was a pivotal moment because instead, it could have gone either way. Those 9th grade girls could have been mad at me and treated me like crap for beating them, but instead they didn't, and they were very supportive and just were happy for me. So and that moment in certain people's careers could have gone totally different way and could have ended a future track career. But I've always had really good teammates, and so I was able then to hook up with a club in Delaware, and I had one of the best club coaches back then. I really only had spring track. I played field hockey in the fall. Indoor track was not a thing for my high school. And so I only had spring track, and we didn't do like AAU summer running. So I hooked up with this track club. Again, great people, great coaches, still in a group chat with 4 people from back in the 80s.
Nice.
And that's how I got my full ride to Villanova. And I think just I think it was also an inner thing where nobody had to tell me to go out and run. My parents never had to say, maybe you should get your run in today, or we're supposed to do a workout today. They never had to tell me that. So I think it was an inner fire and a passion just to take this gift I was given by God and turn it into just make it the best that I could make it.
That's great. And kudos to those 9th graders, because I never understood the upperclassmen or the younger people who got mad or bitter over the younger athlete. Like, it's just going to make your team better. So
exactly.
I mean, I never got that. I was all about team when I ran. So,
well, that's because you are a guy. You don't understand girl cattiness.
Listen. True.
That is, well, Dave did coach girls. I also he was
girls. Yep.
He was in that world with high school girls, and I was going to piggyback on that though, because back in the 80s and things like that, bullying was not as much of a major topic, right? It was there. We always wanted to stop it, but bullying and hazing was much still going on. So it was really cool for a bunch of 9th graders to sit there and not put you down. And, and it does go on. I think it still goes on today with the jealousy of, that's supposed to be my spot. Why is this shrimp taking it from me? And the fact that didn't occur. But I think running is such a different world. And we talked about this on the show before, where the pain is the same regardless of what position you get, as long as you give it your all.
Right.
So I feel like the respect is different. And even some of the minor envy, but not in a bad way of, wow, in 7th grade, I couldn't do that, but that's pretty cool. So I think I piggyback, on Dave, where, be a good teammate. Anyone young listening out there, please be a good teammate. If somebody's better than you and they're younger than you, say, you know what, run your workouts with me so we can make you better and you can make me better as a leader. So that's so cool. That's cool to hear that you had, girls there that were willing to take you under their wing and things like that.
Well, yeah. And also this club I ran with, one of my biggest competitors went to a private school. I went to a public school. We trained together all off season and all for 3 years or so. And at the state meet, I only beat her. Actually, she beat me at the county meet, but tripped me up a little bit. And I ran over to my coach and I was like, she should be disqualified. And he looked at me and he said, next time, don't let her get so close to you. And so at state meet, I beat her by 0.5 of a second maybe, and her scholarship to UNC went up from like 30% to 70%. So it was like, everybody won. So it was great. We really helped each other be the best we could be. Good. And we're still friends to this day.
Now, Dave hated every other person that didn't have the same singlet on as him in high school.
That's how my coach was. Did
you, outside of, her,
90s
obviously, because you obviously trained with her, were you kind of looking at the other girls, though, as lunch because you didn't know them? Or was it still more of a friendly atmosphere, even though you were competitors?
I think, it was more like from my small state of Delaware, it was almost like that private school, public school fight, so we were,
that still exists.
yeah, so we were the scrappy public school, Concord High School, and then there was like the private schools. And so I think it was, that was the rivalry, so and unfortunately, I mean, because there was one girl from a private school that did join us that we didn't really know very well. And now we're friends. We both coach. And one day I was just like, I am so sorry. I know we were mean to you. Like we would be out on a long run and we would be like, let's run her into the ground, type of thing. So we were mean. And so I did the same thing, just because she was from the private school that we, didn't really like. So, but, let you kind of grow and you let bygones be bygones. And she said we weren't that mean. So
that's good.
But you know what, though? Again, it's like kind of every once in a while, you're probably trying to run her into the ground. And there she is just going with you. And you're just like, respect.
Oh,
okay.
Respect.
Cool.
Yep.
And hopefully you got better today. And, let's go get a PR. Now you're on our team. So
exactly. That's how running is. I mean, it's not up to some coach to decide who's better. The times don't lie.
Absolutely.
So I was doing some research prior to you coming on, and on your Wikipedia page, it sounds like from this, your career with your coach at Villanova did not have the greatest start. Is that accurate?
Oh my God. I think he really tried very hard to make me transfer my freshman year.
That's kind of how it sounds.
Yeah. So I went to school 2 weeks before I started, and I had started packing everything, and my field hockey stick was coming with me to Villanova. And 2 weeks before school started, he said, so you ready for cross country? And I was like, no, I've never run cross country. Didn't we talk about me running fall track? And I pictured myself like out on the turf playing hockey with some of the girls during the fall season. And he's like, no, you're running cross country. And I panicked because I had gained a little weight over the summer. I had eaten some ice cream at work.
Your summer training, right?
Yeah, I just was running 30 minutes a day. And so I got there and I started the workouts and I was crying and finishing last in time trials. And he came up to me one day and he said, you know what, no matter how, he didn't say the word crappy you run. He said another word, but he was like, no matter how crappy you run, you're running cross country.
This isn't regulated. You could say what you want here.
Okay. So he said, no matter how shitty you run, you're running cross country. So I just was like, oh, that's it. And our first meet was at University of Maryland. And I accidentally tripped Maryland's top girl on a cobblestone path. And Rosalind Taylor was right there. I don't know if you guys know Rosalind Taylor.
I know.
And I thought, they're going to kick my ass when we go around that lake behind those trees. And I just put my head down and ran and I won the whole race.
Wow.
And and my coach was like, what the hell was that? My parents were like, what the hell was that? You've been crying every day for like the past month. And I was even like, what the hell was that?
Like, I was scared.
I was scared to death that they were going to kill me.
Things.
So I ended up being third or fourth girl, that year we made it to NCAAs. And I had a love-hate relationship until about my junior year at Villanova with cross country. And then I just fell in love with it. So
prior to you having that breakout race at Maryland, was there any thoughts of transferring and getting out of there? Or was it something where you set your mind that, you're going to succeed at this no matter how difficult it is?
I think it wasn't a thing like nowadays. People are like, I don't really like it. I'm going to transfer to another school. And they start talking to coaches. I felt very lucky to just be on a full scholarship to Villanova. My parents didn't have money for college. So for me, it was like I either quit track and I go to University of Delaware because they could afford maybe the tuition. Yeah. Or just keep going and just, and actually that summer when I came home after my freshman year, I got really close to making NCAAs. And so I was at my waitressing job and I just one day said, you know what? You did pretty okay for crying the whole entire year. So just stop your crying, just shut up and run and stop your whining. And that's what happened. And then sophomore year, I won NCAAs.
I'd say it turned out well. You won 8 NCAA championships. So I think and I'm sure that you can attribute a lot of that to running cross country seriously. I'm sure that helped you for every other season too. Just like it does
I say, everyone. Cross country and Gina Procaccio, because Gina Procaccio was one of those teammates that was like, stop your whining, just shut up and run. And so it really, she did help me out. I toughened up is what I needed to do.
And not to mention that, like, finishing with a Villanova diploma is very nice as well, because it is a very, very good education school. Villanova diploma goes far. So that had to be a little bit of motivation, even though if UDEL is your fallback, that's still another fantastic school educationally. So it's like, it's not a terrible fallback in terms of if you had to transfer out.
It's not. But when you're a Delaware resident, it is much like back in the day, like if you didn't get into any other school, you went to Delaware. Now it's hard to get in Delaware, even if you live in Delaware.
Yes, it is.
So,
So now, when you were there in college, you were very good, but the girls' team, it was just about to get really good as you progressed.
Yeah.
But the men's team was always very, very good, right?
Yes.
Were you there when Marcus was there? Marcus O'Sullivan, were you guys there together at all?
Marcus had just graduated, so it was like Sean O'Neill, Jerry O'Reilly, Sydney Marie had graduated, but he lived there, so he would come in and work out on the track. So we got to watch Sydney work out. Charlie Jenkins was there. Bruce Harris actually was another Delawarean that was there. Nice. I'm trying to think of some other Tony Valentine, Grant Davis.
They've had so many legendary athletes and coaches on the men's side, like Jimbo Elliott, and now Marcus is doing, an amazing job. But you were like the first kind of big female star, and then you started all with the NCAA XC titles, and then I think they won like 6 straight women's titles, or
after that first one, I think they won 6, and then there were a couple years where they didn't, and they won 6 more in a row, and then so it's it's been amazing.
That's awesome.
So do you feel like your success kind of paved the way? Part of what you were able to do helped pave the way to get those high level recruits that would build that. Do you kind of look at what you did as like the foundation of part of those 6 years?
Yeah, I do. And I think that really what solidified it was when Terrence Mahan was actually on a visit. He was he was out in California, I think. And he said the reason why he wanted to come to Villanova was because of me and how my career had gone at Villanova. So that was pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That's pretty cool. So I want to go a little bit in the Wayback Machine with you. I want you to give me some of your favorite memories from running. Going back, we talked a little bit about 7th grade, winning that race. We just touched a little Nova. Kind of fit us in between there. What are some of your best memories that kind of, shaped you as the runner you would become? And ultimately, I think all of us could say running helped shape us as people. It really does. It challenges you and it pushes you in ways that you can't even imagine. So take us some good memories that you had from 7th grade, if you have any more, all the way up to college and pro.
I think my track workouts with that club were some of my greatest memories. We worked out. We met at a track at 5:30 at night because everybody from like 14 to 85. I mean, that's how big the club was. And it just was all ages. So we would meet after people did their day at work. And we would warm up together and we'd be running in the dark. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but running in the dark just makes you seem faster, right? You're always faster.
You feel so much quicker.
Yeah.
and it just makes you feel like I'm putting in extra work. I'm running when people aren't running. Like I'm
exactly.
So it's like
at home watching TV.
Yep.
And yeah.
Yep.
So those workouts were great. And then we used to play Sunday morning tag games at Brandywine Creek State Park, which is a local park. And it was like a game of war. Like one person would be it. We'd all fan out around the park. And, it was, if you were it and you didn't catch anybody, it was like, oh man, you just got, destroyed the whole rest of, that week with people picking on you for being a loser. But it was all in good fun. And like I said, those people from that group are still some of my best friends. My friend Dan, sometimes my coach would make me run tempo runs with him. And looking back was such a pivotal thing for me because he was so good. And that last mile of a 3-mile tempo run, I hated Dan so bad because I was hurting so bad, but I had to finish. And I'll tell you what, in that last lap of the Olympics in the 3000, I was hurting so bad, but I had been there with Dan earlier in my training. So I think that's why I was able to handle it. Otherwise, I don't think I would have finished the race. I mean, so that was really important. It was fun. It was really important.
So kudos, Dan, for helping Vicki get through that.
He
last
knows.
lap.
I told him the other day. Yeah, kudos. I hated him, but he was an integral part in my career. obviously the Olympics, the 88 Olympics in Seoul, I was 21, didn't know anything, just young and stupid. So I had so much fun and still ran well. I had a lot of fun. The World Cross Country Champs, I mean, again, that was a huge stage, and it snowed in Boston. And
what else is new?
Right? I mean, the night before.
What else is new? If it's cross country and there's a championship to be had in Boston
in March,
snow on the ground somehow.
Give me August.
Yeah, I know. Could have exactly. And that was fun. I got to go to New Zealand. I was able to be a part of like a 2-week trip because it's their summer, our winter. So they beat up on the Americans a little bit. But I got to see New Zealand and I love that country. I would love to go back. The people are the nicest people in the entire world. Nike photo shoots. I got to go to Japan with a USA group, Roger Kingdom, Evelyn Ashford. Wow. I got to go over with them. And also towards the end of my career, moving to Eugene in 96. My daughter was 8 months old and we moved in with a family, my friend Chris and Jeff and their 3 daughters. And her parents are right around the corner. And we developed another whole entire family in Eugene. So we have gone back to the trials every 4 years so that they've been in Eugene to stay with our Eugene family and be able to visit with them. And it's just, it's been a blessing. Running's been such a blessing in my life.
So what was it like winning your first nationals? You won nationals in college in the 1500, right? You went over there and won. What was that like? Winning the USA Championship at that time, did you feel like your career was going to how did you feel your career was going to shape after that?
I was always like, so when I won the 1500, it was an Olympic year. Mm-hmm. So the thing was, people are focused on the trials, not so much the USA Championship. So I didn't really, my biggest kudo was Alyssa Harvey was in the race. So, that's enough. So winning with her in the race made it obviously super legit. Yeah. But I think it was just like a stepping stone. So for me, it was like, okay, you're legit, so going in, and there was a little speed work going into the 3000. I was qualified for the Olympic trials if I needed to, fall back on that. So it was a good stepping stone for me, but definitely nothing that I never rested my laurels on anything really.
So yeah, talk about now going to the Olympics. Now we've talked to some Olympians and I just want to get your reaction. What was it like going through the ceremony, having a USA singlet and being able to compete for the United States? What was that? Has that feeling like ever been, have you ever had an equivalent to the first time you experienced that?
No, I mean, it was amazing. Every time the national anthems played at anything, soccer games, wherever we are, high school games, or, I just go back to being in those shoes of representing the United States. And that's always been important to me, representing Villanova, representing my high school, representing my family, my teammates, like representing, my team, no matter what team it is very important to me. I will say that wearing a cardigan in August in Seoul or in September. I mean, sometimes the uniform choices, the opening ceremony.
Right. This is not the Winter Olympics. This is the Summer Olympics.
And how does Team USA not have alternates? Like, we're going to go with the cardigans, but if it's 700 degrees in Seoul, maybe we'll switch the polos a little bit.
It was so hot. We were dripping by the time we walked into the stadium because you're standing outside for 6 hours, United States at the very end. So I do understand why a lot of people skip the opening ceremonies. And I do, people that don't know are like, how could you skip the opening ceremonies? Well, if you have a competition the next day,
yeah, absolutely.
It's a long, long day, but going into the stadium, and I actually, my teammate from Villanova, Jerry O'Reilly, was there for Ireland. We actually met on the infield, which there's all these athletes out there, so it was just cool. Wild and crazy. The other thing was that year in '88, Kappa did the uniforms.
Oh yeah.
So we're talking a long time ago, and they weren't the best fitting, best cut uniforms. So I think there was one 400 trial race and all the girls ended up with like wedgies at the end of the race. So we all got a little notice, like, please don't wear the bodysuit. Like it's not a good look. Mary Slaney had her Kappa singlet altered because it was very high. And I was like, man, like, Why couldn't we all do that? Like, no, I didn't get that memo. So, but regardless, marching into that stadium in a USA uniform was just, it was definitely overwhelming. I'll give you that much. I almost blacked out at the starting line.
Wow.
Just with it all hit me all at once. And I was like, oh crap. And then the gun went off. So I didn't have too much time to think, but
probably good timing for that gun, right?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Your body just started reacting.
I almost, if you watch the race, I'm in last place when the gun goes off. Cause I literally think I almost just like fainted, like, wow. Wait, I'm not ready for this yet.
So I have a question for you. So you're in the middle of your college career. You go to the Olympics. Mm-hmm. Was that commonplace thing? Because I feel like nowadays, these athletes, whether they're freshmen or sophomores, they just sign pro and then they go right pro. You see it happen like with Will Sumner, who just he was a freshman, or Britton, the 400 girl from
Arkansas.
Arkansas. It's like, was that common then to go back to your college, or was there pressure to go to the next level in pro, or did you feel that you can get the same training going back to college that you could have maybe going pro at that time?
It's a whole different world now with these training groups. I mean, there were very few training groups for women. So I think that everybody, it sort of was kind of commonplace to say, you know what, you stay with your team. And even people that graduated would stay like on the, Villanova campus and, so they kind of stayed where their coaches were. Also, you couldn't make the money that these athletes are making. Now they've got NIL and all that stuff, but you would lose your amateur status. So you couldn't make any. When I went to New Zealand, I made no money, per race. Cause I was pro. I made $500 a race. But when I went to Europe, in '88 before the Olympics, I made no money. I could have my trip paid for, but I could not make money in those races.
That's crazy.
I know.
That's just,
and it's funny too, because we had Sarah Slattery on one of our earlier episodes, and even her in, the 90s, like 2000s, she was talking about how difficult it was to really find, training groups. And I feel like we're slowly evolving as a sport because groups are common.
Yeah.
But it's like we still have a long way to go, and I definitely want to talk to you more about the sport later and how far we have to go,
especially as a female perspective, because I feel like it's definitely gotten much better from a female perspective than maybe in the 80s. And
I'm so jealous. I'm so jealous of the female athletes of these days. I do massage and I do work on a lot of the high school kids in the area. And one kid, when he's like, did you have a tough time deciding what training group to go to after you graduated? And I was like, no, there wasn't a choice. I didn't have one.
I called my coach at Villanova and said, will you still coach me, please? Like,
I trained by myself. I really did train by myself.
So even though you're envious, I feel like there is a lot of female athletes that we be envious of a later part of your career. You have your daughter in 95, and then you decide that I want to go make the Olympics again, and you succeed. What was that like? Because, me and Dave are guys.
And it was in our own country. It was in Atlanta.
It was in Atlanta, but like me and Dave are guys. I don't know what it's like to give birth. I watched my wife do it twice. I can't imagine her sitting there going, I'm gonna make. I want to go and be an elite athlete again. I never gave birth and I'm done being an elite athlete a long time ago. It's like, so what was that like? And was it a difficult decision so close after you had your daughter to then go and really engage in that type of training again?
So when I was pregnant with Alyssa, I was also, before I found out I was pregnant, I started kind of working and consulting with Dick Brown. So then through my pregnancy, Dick Brown said, Vicki, I think after you have your baby, I think you have a good chance of coming back. And so I was kind of like, my life is a little bit in shambles. I got divorced. So I came home to Delaware. I moved in with my parents, my mom and dad. And I went to them one day. MBNA was, a bank here, and they had just started. And I had heard they had daycare in their on the premises. And I thought I should go work for MBNA, but I still have this itch that I need to scratch. And so I talked to my parents and I said, I really want to do this. And they said, we will support you. I mean, not that like they'll, pay me or whatever, but they were like, we'll help you.
Yeah.
And so I started running. I didn't gain a ton of weight with Alyssa. So And I waited an appropriate amount of time. So I started running again and slowly building up a base. And I felt pretty good. It came back pretty quickly. And I was working. And I also, believe it or not, one day I was working at a family-owned produce market. And my now husband is a physical therapist. And he came to the market and said, "Hey, Vicki, I hear you're training again." And I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Come to our clinic. We'll help you out however we can." Now, mind you, at this point, I had never had
pickup line. That was a pickup line right there. Come to my clinic. I got you.
Listen, I was nursing at the time, so my boobs were actually, kind of. I
love it.
You were picking up, and so was he. There you go.
So that was the first time I had massage. It was kind of the first time I really got kind of taken care of as an athlete, because again, Villanova back in the day, Villanova basketball, we sort of got kicked out of the training room whenever a guys team came in.
Yeah.
So we didn't have a lot of people taking care of us. So Rudy, my husband Rudy, who wasn't my husband at the time, but he helped me out a lot. And then one day in November, I got a phone call from my friend Chris in Oregon, where I had lived, and she said, "What are you doing? Your coach is out here in Oregon. There's a training group here." She said, "You got to come out here." And I said, "Oh, remember, I have this baby, and my parents are helping me out." And she said, "I'll be your nanny for a year. Move out here, live with us, and I'll be your nanny." And I said, nope, I can't. I didn't know her that well. I was like, "I don't know you well enough for that. I can't do that." She said, "Pray about it." So I prayed about it. It was like the 8-ball. Just every time I turned the 8-ball over, it said, yes, yes.
Go.
So Alyssa was 8 months old, and I boarded a plane. I cried all the way to Denver because my dad was crying so hard carrying Alyssa in the car seat, into the super shuttle. He couldn't even drive me. He was crying so hard. And I went out to Oregon and joined the training group. And I'll tell you, after training by myself for all that time, those first 2 weeks, I was running out of my head just to have people to train with. It was the best in the world. Then reality kind of hit in the heart, then it got hard. But I had Susie Hamilton, Claire Eichner Taylor.
That'll rejuvenate you, to have other people around.
It was amazing. And any day at Hayward Field back in that day, you would have Maria Mottola. Bill Dellinger would be out on the track. Alberta Salazar might show up. You'd have the U of O team. You'd have the grandma doing her power walking around lane 6. The track was open to everybody and anybody, but you could have 5 Olympians on that track while you were working out. It was just a great time to be at Hayward Field. It was
How much did training alone and doing hard workouts and things alone so often help you with the training group? Because you kind of find out a lot about yourself when you work out alone, right? It's real easy to just slow down. It's real easy to just stop when you get exhausted. And, pushing it is something that is it's hard to do. It is.
It is.
What was that like now then when you had other athletes next to you? Was it still difficult? But it's at least I have someone with me to roll with me now. Was there even relief in those hard moments?
It was such a relief. Claire and I became really good training partners, and I love Claire. Alyssa's middle name is Claire. It was if I was having a bad day, Claire didn't run me into the ground. If Claire was having a bad day, I helped her through. It was great to have again that team. I love being part of a team, so it was great to be part of a team again and have people, to not have it just be on me all the time, to push myself. I mean, I still talk to myself, and I know it's because I spent so many times just out on a track, just one more, you can do it.
So who wins an argument between you and you?
Usually me.
I mean, 96, you had Gina Jacobs was on top of her game. Amy Wickinson was just to get top 3 was a big accomplishment at that point. And
Julie Henner, right? Julie Henner was
did Susie Hamilton run?
She did. She made the team in the 8, and then she came back in the 15. We were all in the 1500 final. I had so many Villanova teammates in that final. It was ridiculous. It was a mostly Villanova final. So Debbie Grant Marshall, Kathy Franey, Sherry Goddard, Nena Lynch might have been in there.
That's awesome.
Me, I mean, crazy.
So I want to talk right before the 15 though, because you ran the 5K.
I did.
You didn't finish, and you were having, dehydration troubles and things like that. Mm-hmm. What went into the decision to do the 15 after that? Was there kind of doubt in type of, where you were at that point, if you were able to actually do it? So talk about what happened in the 5K, and then what was the decision to run that 15?
So I think part of what happened in the 5K is that I just hadn't run enough of them. So I ran fast enough to make the trials. My training was basically 5K training, but I had also run so 8 years after my 407.4 PR in the 1500, I ran a 407.9, and I basically like dead stopped behind Slaney and had to go around her in Canada. And so I probably would have run a PR. So I was doing really well in the 1500. But all my training was geared to the 5. But I think it was a lack of experience. And so somewhere along, like with 600 meters to go, it was almost like a big voice said, like, stop. And I stepped off the track. And kudos, man, Dick Brown didn't really say like, what happened? Or he didn't yell at me. He just was like, are you okay? And there's also another story that goes to this. We were staying in Dunwoody, Georgia at a house because I had Alyssa. My parents were helping me with her. So I wasn't in the hotel, the hotel downtown or near the track or anything with the track headquarters. So I was really embarrassed, obviously. And so I went out to go running like the next day, and I'm running down this road in Dunwoody, Georgia, and I see a figure coming towards me, and I'm like, oh no, but then I'm like, I'm in Dunwoody, who knows? They don't even know who I am. Yeah. And as the person gets closer, I realize it's Jim Fisher, the coach of University of Delaware, who like I'd run into at the mall and whatever. And I'm like, oh, for the love of God, I know this person. And he's probably one of the nicest people in the world. I think you guys had Joe Compagni on not too long ago.
Yeah, Joe. We love Joe.
Okay. One of the nicest people. And Coach Fisher coached Joe Compagni.
That makes sense. You know what? That actually makes sense.
Joe went to Delaware.
Yeah. To Delaware. So Jim Fisher's amazing. So we meet in the middle of this road and on the shoulder in Dunwoody, and Coach Fisher didn't say what happened. He didn't say, and he said, are you okay? And I was like, you know what, I am. And that was when I decided to run the 1500 because he didn't judge me. And so that gave me the courage to go do it. I prayed about it, of course. And we went to the track. I told Dick Brown if I couldn't break 30 seconds in a 200, I wasn't going to run the 1500. He told me I ran a 29. He could have made it up, but
that's what coaches do.
That's what they do. So I went and ran.
We've all done it. My
goal was just to finish the race. I didn't want to drop out again. So I was probably, I think, the last person to make through the first round. I was the last person to make it through into the final. I think I was the last person in my heat to make it through. And then in that final, I don't know what happened, but I hadn't broken 207 in an 800 that whole season, and I closed in 205. I hadn't broken 65 in a 400, and I closed in 60. So I don't know.
All those workouts alone.
But it was Susie Hamilton, I guess, right? Yeah. That's what you do when you're training with somebody like that.
It was all Dan.
It was Dan. It sure as heck was Dan.
And I want to put this out there. You were no slouch in the 5K. You had the 5K national record for road racing for a little while there. So it's not like you were going into a race that was foreign to you. Obviously, road and track are different.
Yeah.
You were a decorated 5K runner. It's not like you were a very good 5K runner.
I was decent, but I ran 2 5Ks in New Zealand. And I'm telling you what, the 3K was my event. Those last 5.5 laps.
I actually wanted to talk about that because pre-1988, there was no 5K or 10K, right?
No.
In the Olympics, it was only 15 or the
15
3.
How happy 15, 3, 10.
How happy was the women's scene when they added the 5? Because I feel like the 3 and the 15 are kind of similar. There's not a huge disparity in those. So was there a pause? Was it something that women at the time were fighting to get in? Hey, we want to have every event that the men have, or were they happy 15, 3, 10?
I don't know. I know I wasn't happy because I love the 3000. That to me is the perfect distance. So if I was young enough, I would have loved to have tried the steeplechase because I did hurdles in high school. I think I would have been okay. And I love the distance. So I didn't really hear a lot of hoopla about, the equality. I do know that when they took the 3000 out, and they put the 5K in. It took a long time for them to put the steeplechase in.
Yeah.
So I think that could have happened faster, but I was so kind of out of the sport-ish by then. Right. I didn't really hear, I was raising my kids, so I didn't hear a lot of grumblings. But to me, I was sad because honestly, it's the 3,000 is the perfect distance.
So I want to get your opinion on something real quick. What do you think of women doing the heptathlon and not the decathlon?
Somebody else asked me that.
I've always said that, why is it that, at every single turn, it seems that we've had no, we need to only let women do these events and protect them. Only let women. And it's, as we've gone, we've been like, no, let women do everything. What's the difference? And we still have the hep and decathlon. Would you like to see one day women get a decathlon spot? I feel like these multi-event women are more than capable of doing it if they train for it, obviously. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
Is that something you would like to see one day to kind of get that even playing field as well?
I would be interested in asking a heptathlete what they think.
If we need to have on. Yeah.
You have to have
Anna Hall on. We need Anna Hall on.
So what are the 3 events they don't do? What they don't do pole vault?
They don't do vaults. Well, obviously the 15 is an 8.
Is an 800.
8. I think they do a 200 rather than a 4 to end day 1. I'm not sure the actual events that they don't do.
Do they do
it's got to be a throw, right?
I don't know if they do the. Do they
want to do jav? Maybe.
I don't think they do jav.
I'm not sure.
I think they
don't do pole vault. They don't do jav, and
I should know this.
One of the jumps, I think.
Maybe
I don't know.
I don't know either. We have to
you look at Anna Hall. I'm sure Jackie Joyner would have been fine. Maybe it's the pole vault. I think that it's hard to get women to even pole vault these days still. So I think that that's the biggest hurdle in getting a decathlete is probably that pole vault.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely think that might be it. Go ahead.
They don't throw discus.
They don't.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. I just wanted to get your opinion on that. And I also want to get your opinion on this. So right now we are seeing probably the fastest time in terms of speed and a lot of really fast thresholds being broken. We talk all the time about the men. The 4-minute mile is now it used to be a myth. Now it's the requirement. And if you break 4 back in the day, you're getting a contract. You broke 4, you're going to have everyone coming after you. Yeah. Now, if you break 4, we had Eric Holt on the show earlier, and Eric, was just in the final at USA's. We wish Eric had a better race, but he was there. Eric is a 3:53 miler, and he's unsigned. What is your opinion on right now? You brought up the super shoes and we talked earlier.
Yeah.
How do you feel about the super shoes? Do you feel that they give an unfair advantage to athletes right now?
Well, I guess to phrase it that way, is there an unfair advantage? Well, if everybody's wearing them, then
Correct.
Nobody has an unfair advantage.
Yes.
Correct.
I think the unfairness comes in comparing times, like records, Caitlin Toohey broke Jenny Simpson's 5,000 meter collegiate record, by a second. But if you add the fact that she was wearing super shoes, it's probably not even, it's not that it's not close, but she didn't break it. They're not comparable. Those times are not comparable. So pre-super shoe, post-super shoe, they should be two different record books. I mean, when you're taking technology that went to a lawsuit with Oscar Pistorius trying to run in the Olympics and trying to decide if he had an advantage because he was running on carbon plates.
Yeah.
And then say, ooh, somebody said, well, look at this, let's use it in technology in our shoes. I mean, everybody that wears them will tell you it's an advantage. They're running faster in them. I wear the speeds. If I want to do a track workout, that's a nylon plate, and it's allowing my 56-year-old body to do stuff that it probably isn't capable of doing without those shoes.
Yeah. I think a lot of it too is that they help you to recover much, much faster.
Absolutely.
But I also think it's, we have better track surfaces, especially in indoor track. I mean, the amount of fast indoor tracks now that are banked are huge. And I think, technology, the internet has played such a huge role because every coach kind of knows what other coaches are doing. So even if you have a bad coach, you can go online and find something that will work for your athlete. So I think it's so many things that kind of encompass why, kids are running faster. I mean, now you have I think, we have 4 or 5 kids break 4 minutes this year in high school.
Yeah.
You know,
I think
so
it was
like
more than that. I'm not gonna lie. I think it was more.
Oh, that's, I think it's
in
more
high
than
school.
yeah, like I was go back to the meet at Arcadia. 76th place in that meet was 9 flat.
It's ridiculous.
And a 2 mile, you know. But so I'm not. I mean, shoes certainly play a role, but I think that it encompasses so many more things that are just so much more readily available at this time. And coaches know more now. You know, there used to be like 5 or 6 big time coaches. Now there are coaches. If a high school kid has a bad, you know, he could pay $350 and get workouts sent to him from, you know, from all different coaches from all over the world. So definitely shoes, but I just think that there's so many more things that are factors why.
Yes.
It's kind of a fun time as a fan, especially if you just started a podcast about a year ago. You know, you kind of have all these funny things to talk about, but that's why we love talking to guests of your generation, and just to see, like, it wasn't always easy. You know, like, it was a lot harder than guys, like, you know, like, just tracks themselves are so much faster.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The track. Oh my gosh. Like the Boston indoor track, you know, and every time we go to Ocean Breeze, I go out and I run a couple laps because I'm like, you guys have no idea how lucky you are to have this, you know, track to run on.
Yeah.
Like, I ran on a wooden track at Madison Square Garden. It was 10
laps to the mile. And it was slippery.
Sure. And even Tonga was the master.
I think that also, I think I'm probably a little frustrating as a coach because I do coach high school kids, but I'm a little patient. I really believe in patience. And I think that one of the reasons why a lot of high school kids are so good is because they do rush it and they're doing a lot. You know, I qualified for Junior Olympics out in the LA Coliseum when I was 17 and during the Olympic trials, and my club coach, Joe McNichol, he wouldn't let me go. And I was so mad. And I said, you don't think I'm good enough? And he's like, no, I know you're good enough. He said, I just think that you have such great races ahead of you that there's no reason to do this now. And when I came home from the Olympic Games, placing 6th in the final as a 21-year-old, I went into a depression for 3 months because of what it meant, how my life changed. Was I ever going to be good enough again? And if I had to handle that at 17, I wouldn't have been able to. So I think a lot of people forget that patience is maybe a good thing sometimes, and you may not get the times when you want to run the times. I talked my kid that I coached into not going to Eugene the summer before his freshman year going into college because he didn't have to set the bar any higher than it was set. You know, like I said, start your freshman year with a 152. Why lower? You know, why run any faster? Go to the lake, enjoy your summer, have fun. You're never going to be 18 again, you know, and he's brought it down to 149. So, you know, I think that sometimes these kids have to be kids too.
Yeah.
You know, and if you can run fast and be a kid and be happy. And I mean, the pressure just mounts and it's hard when you're winning and you're doing really well, that pressure. And with social media, it's even
Strava and everything.
It's just exponential now.
And there's so many invitational races now. Like, you know, it used to be like you run within your state and maybe you'll go to nationals. Now, you know, there's meets out in Brooks. There's there's the on meets, and a lot of these high school kids are going to meets. So it's so many extra races.
Absolutely. And if you don't go, you're missing out, right? Like, why wouldn't you go? Why wouldn't you go? Like, we're taking a family trip out to Oregon so so-and-so can run, you know, whatever. And they're like 11. And I'm like, wow, my parents could have never done that. You know,
you touched on something with the patience too, and especially as a coach, like, it has to be difficult in your situation because there used to be a time where you had preseason, regular season, championship season, and you were planning, you know, get at peak, start to taper, things like that. But now there's pressure early season and every season to run fast, run fast. And I think we saw a good example of some good coaching with a lot of the pros this year, because a lot of people were clamoring, especially after Worlds and how good everyone was. We were expecting, you know, everyone to come out. We were expecting like Raven Rogers to come out and just run 156s again and things like that. And we're wanting to see that so often. And I think it's getting pushed down into the lower levels in college and high school. And we are seeing that. I think that could end up being a problem where we're seeing a lot of early season meets with really fast times where
really fast.
Every once in a while, you would get that prodigy to come out, right? And just dominate early season meets because, you know, they were it. They had it, and a lot of times they burnt out too. And that was the thing. And so I think something that you're saying with patience is big. And I also want to touch on one other thing when it comes to the super shoes and the advantages. I think you bring up a tough thing in sports in general, because it's tough to kind of say when a record should or shouldn't count, right? Because obviously the cinder tracks were a much less advantage with 1-inch spikes to the asphalt tracks, to the, when Mondo now is a thing. And Dave talks about the bank tracks all the time. And it wasn't, I didn't start off running on bank tracks, and I was running in the early 2000s. I was on flat tracks with no spikes.
Right. Lehigh, you can never wear spikes.
And we were at Princeton in Jersey. Princeton, you couldn't wear spikes. So, and it's kind of like, even just to then, should we separate flat track records from bank track records? And it's like, it's a difficult thing. So I think you get that in all sports with baseball. Like, should we count some of the things that they used to do in the workouts, and football, leather helmets versus, I don't know. It's tough to fall into that. And I get where you're coming from, but I think it's kind of, it's a weird thing, because you can argue with pole vaults, and not all schools can afford the same type of poles, and there's advantages to certain types. So unfortunately, in track, equipment matters, but we can't really police the equipment, right? Like, it's always tough. It's, if you can afford it, you get the best stuff. Yeah. And if you can't afford it, you don't. But bottom line is, as long as you have shoes on your feet, you compete, right? So it's like, I don't know. It would be tough for me to say separate these records, because then I think we'd have to chop up so much in history.
Yeah, it's true. That is true. But, kids, like, I'll say, what did you run? And they're like, oh, I ran a 4:22 mile, but it's a 4:20 because of the conversion. So now you've got all those conversions, flat track to bank track, conversions.
Those conversions don't count. You didn't do it. I hate conversions. You didn't do it. That would be like with me, like, I'd run a great relay split and it'd be like, let me add 3 seconds and call it an open. It's like, no, it didn't happen.
You didn't do it.
You didn't do it. You had a running start past the line, and then you handed it off and hoped the guy that was sprinting in front of you got the, that does not count.
But I'll take my 4:28 mile on the Milrose track. Though.
There you go. Milrose, absolutely.
I mean that I don't like, and I say, like, oh well, they would have broke the American record in the 1500 on their way to the mile, but they didn't run 1500. They ran a mile.
yeah, definitely. Yeah. So how do you feel? Oh, go ahead, Dave. Go ahead.
I just want to ask you, being at a grad of Villanova, what is it like running in that Villanova uniform at the Penn Relays? Because they are like the most dominant team. I mean, even this year, 4 by a mile, they come back and win it. Like,
that 4 by mile doesn't count. It does not count.
Why? Because the anchor legs.
Yes, that's not a race. Yeah. You don't give up the lead.
That is a race. It was not a time trial. It was a race.
It was not. No, there was a 3-man race up front. It was.
We can debate over that later. But
we boo now when people like slow down at Penn.
I know.
Yes, they deserve to be booed.
That's why. But that's why I still kind of like the championship races, because there is no rabbit. Everything's rabbited now. Everything's time trial, because
that makes me crazy.
Because your sponsorship is all based on time, so everything has to be fast. Like,
yes.
I feel like we're losing the art of racing, and at a relay race like Penn Relays, you still have the ability to see that. So what was it like being at Nova, running at Penn? It's in the same city. It's an amazing meet, and you're wearing that Nova jersey. I mean, male or female. Yeah. That has to be like, the Wall of Fame, just Nova there. It's just awesome.
It's a ton of pressure, number one. It is a ton of pressure. So I remember like watching the boys run, and I think it was like a 4 by 15, whatever was first. And one of the Villanova guys kind of like blew it, and they didn't win. So the next day I was sitting behind these 2 men, almost like the 2 old Muppet men in the balcony, and they were watching the Penn Relays. And so the same kid that kind of blew it gets the baton, and one of the guys goes, "That's the kid that blew it yesterday." And I was like, oh my God, like these people are like ruthless. So when we were in Seoul on the warm-up track, Marty and I, before my final in the 3000, I think Marty said, like, "Vicki, it could be worse." And I looked at him like, how can it be worse? And he's like, "It could be the Penn Relays." And we just started laughing, because it was like, you know what? Probably true.
So was there a rivalry with, UPenn and like Temple? And then when you guys like saw any of them there, was there kind of a rivalry? Like, I have to beat them. I have
Villanova, of course they're going to beat them.
But was there kind of like, you can't lose to them type of deal because you're Villanova?
I don't even know if they were in our races. We were like Tennessee, UVA,
every once in a while they squeak it in.
Wisconsin. Yeah. No, I think
Stanford.
I mean, even back then, really, I think it was Tennessee, UVA, Wisconsin for sure. Yeah. We wanted to know where Susie was anchoring. Providence, Georgetown.
Providence had some great women's teams.
Yeah. So those are the ones that we were concerned about. So it was hard, and we didn't get a hotel room. We went right back to the dorms. We had to like sleep in our dorm room that night, and everybody knew how we did, and so we had to go back to campus. So you either went back as a winner or you went back with your tail between your legs.
So with you coaching right now in high school, how much have you had to adjust just the way you would have kind of coached yourself to coaching these young athletes? Because like Dave said, there is such an advantage now where you could sit there and look and find different workouts all over the internet if you need to, and you want to get like different perspectives. Have you changed a lot about you and your philosophy as you've grown as a coach with these young athletes? And what did you take from kind of your old school experience dealing with coaches that were just kind of like, yeah, keep crying while you're running fast? Like what have you kind of brought there?
So they call me Coach Mom. So that pretty much probably tells you how I coach. I definitely treat these kids like they're my kids, which for sure doesn't mean I'm never sarcastic to them. I mean, I kind of keep it real. I don't blow smoke up anybody's butt like, oh yeah, you can run this. It's definitely real. And I actually channel my club coach, Joe McNichol. So I coach them very similarly to how I was coached by Joe. It's about being honest. It's about having a conversation. It's about treating my high school athletes with respect. We have conversations. I talk about, I want to know what their goals are. I want to tell them what I think that their potential is. And we sort of meet in the middle. I let them have input a lot of the times. And I bring snacks.
Oh, that's awesome. Snacks.
So has your philosophy on training distance runners changed? Because I know like now there seems to be a lot more on like rest. Like when I was in high school, it was just hard every single day. Now I feel like coaches are actually using days to incorporate rest, and you don't have to run like your slower runs, stay slower. You don't have to race the last 3 miles of your distance run. Like, so has that changed with you, or have you always been kind of that mind frame, or do you still have that old school mentality like we're just going to work every day?
No, I keep Joe's mentality and also the Villanova kind of training model, which was like, I do a prep day. So like Monday's a prep. If the hard workout's on Tuesday, Monday's a prep day. So we'll do some intervals, but I have to yell at them at like, this is the prep day, not the workout, try to slow them down a little bit. And they learn. And then, so workout on Tuesday, easy day, on Wednesday or whatever. So we do kind of like that same kind of model of hard, easy. And like I said, I like the prep days. The hardest thing is I have a small team now. So the kids that aren't as talented as some of the other kids, they work all the time to try to stay up with the group. Yeah. So it's kind of like talking to each kid about, where they are realistically, and just encouraging them to be the best runner they can be, and just, again, with small numbers, it's tough.
It is.
And then also finding somebody with my top guy who's going to run with my top guy. I'm not in the position to hire assistant coaches to run with my kids. And I know that's another thing that's done a lot. There's so many teams that have like more assistant coaches than they have actual kids on the team. And they're brought on to work out with the kids and to make sure they have a hard workout and to create training partners. And I'm not good enough to run with the kids anymore. They don't want to run with me anyway. I'm their coach. So that is another struggle that I have too, is just that training partners. I have a top girl and a top boy and a lot of space in between. So
that's the value of having those college kids come back and fresh off 22, they're seniors, they graduate, they're still looking for their first job. It's like, hey,
volunteer.
You want to come and do some intervals with my top guy? You were running fast in college. Come on, you could be a coach. Just go do the workouts I tell you to do.
Yeah. It was kind of neat though, because I had my one kid that graduated that's at Maryland, and my son was at Monmouth, and they both ran together at the same high school, and they came at Christmas time, and I put them through a little workout. And then my high school kids like watched, they were just like, wow, like it was really cool. It was really and they were really nice to them, and they talked and conversed. And so that was really nice. And I think it's good to see, for the high school kids to see what they can do. A lot of them, again, we talk about like a lot of kids don't want to do sports in college because they say it's like a job. It's too hard. Like, oh, I don't want to run in college. It's like having a job. It is, it's hard. But it's a lot easier. I think that's a lot easier now in some ways. I mean, we would travel every weekend. We didn't have computers. You had your backpack with your chemistry textbook and your English textbook, and you didn't even touch them when you were, in the hotel. Now they're like, oh, we don't want you to have classes on Friday because that's a travel day. And, I mean,
I don't know what that was. Yeah, that's crazy.
Right?
What is that? That was your teacher going, I don't care if you're an athlete in my class. I don't care. You still have to do it. It's like, but the athletic director says you have to accept this.
Here's my note. I was at NCAA's representing your school.
I'm allowed to miss for today. I promise. I don't care. Hey, the athletic department tries this all the time. It's like,
exactly.
I just want to go run.
Oh no, my God.
I do love when kids get to see like someone who was in their position at their high school come back. And we had on Clayton Murphy, and what he does is so cool. He goes to random high schools by where he lives, and he works out on the track, and he'll say, like, hey, I'm doing 400 repeats. Where's your top guys? 200 meters, run me through this. And that's such a great way to help build the actual sport too. To see these pro athletes and around. I mean, Clayton's great. He's on social media. He's great.
Clayton.
He's calling out the USATF all the time, rightfully so. But like things like that, just what that means for that high school kid to see how Clayton Murphy works, it's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always said we need to make events out of when the male and female pros, like they should go do what Clayton does. Go to high schools, announce they're going to be there, let people see how hard you work. Yeah. Let people see what a pro workout is, and what they can be, and then sign some autographs. And I put on my Facebook the other day how fast Sydney McLaughlin was running for her 400 meters, that it was 17 and a half miles for her 400 the whole time. Like, what people don't realize how fast they are, and then I just think they need to see it in person, just to see like this person isn't competing; they're working out, and this is how fast they are. Like, it's a different animal, really is. I agree with Dave. It would be great for the sport, and just like your athletes, seeing two college kids working out is a lot faster. And that, imagine the pro level, like it would. I feel like that would be awesome.
Yeah, it is. It is really neat. I mean, I would go to the track back in the day when I was faster and still trying to run local 5Ks and stuff. And it would be great just to have kids be, what are you doing? And, I mean, they didn't really know who I was. They didn't even care. But, I know what it was like to just watch Mary Slaney on the track. I would secretly be timing her, what's she doing her 200s in, and yeah, it's really great. And like I said, we had Sydney Marie come back to the track in Villanova. So it was great having him at the track and seeing him. I don't know if we had Wellington Zaza. I don't know if you know who he is, but he was he went to 3 different schools in Pennsylvania, but he finished up at Garnet Valley. Okay. And then my 4x4 when I was coaching Garnet Valley got to stand on the podium at Penn Relays because he won the 400 meter hurdles. So he had come back to the school, worked with them on starts and stuff like that. And, they were just blown away. He was at Auburn for a while. He brought like shirts to, he had really little competitions and really cool. It matters. All that stuff matters.
So I want to talk about an award that you won twice while you were over at Villanova. It was known as the Broderick Award when you won it, but it's the Honda Sports Award. Mm-hmm. For people that don't know what it is, talk about what that award is.
So the Honda Sports Award is given to a top female athlete in, I think, 12 D1 sports. So it's like swimming, gymnastics, volleyball, basketball. I'm going to miss some, but like cross country, track, golf. I'm sure I'm not going to be able to name them all because I'm on the spot right now, but, and they also have an inspiration reward, and they give out a D2 and a D3 athlete award. And then they all win for their specific sport. And then usually at the end of June every year, they bring these female athletes together, and they are a top award of all these top women is voted on, and that is presented. This year it was Caitlin Clark from Iowa. And I had the honor of being there as an alum and meeting all these female athletes, and it was just such a pleasure. If the future of our young girls, if they come across any of these women in their sport, in their lifetime, in any capacity, they're blessed. These women are amazing. So it's like the Heisman Trophy, but it's for all sports. And nobody knows about it, which is a bummer.
And I was going to say, it is not brought up enough. And you mentioned Caitlin Clark, and it's like, how hard is it to mention? She was all over SportsCenter, all over ESPN, one of the most well-known names in female sports right now. And how hard was it to mention, oh yeah, she just beat out 11 other elite athletes to win one of the most prestigious awards in collegiate sports for females.
This was not a given. I mean, we were like, well, maybe it's going to be
well, Caitlin Tui was there, right?
Caitlin Tui was not there, but she was one of the award winners.
Well,
the golfer,
Rose Zhang.
Yeah,
I'm looking at it right now.
Win. Yeah,
Rose was incredible.
Yeah, and then you had Erin Matson, who just got named as a 22-year-old the head coach of UNC field hockey. Are you kidding me? Like, and we know Erin, so we were, secretly pulling for her. But I was just like, who's going to win this? Like, it was, they're amazing. All of them are amazing.
So we definitely need to give more shout outs to this. And especially as Talking in Ovals goes, we'll pay attention, especially to the cross country and track and field athletes, and give them shout outs, because it's something that, if any female athletes are listening to this, go look it up. Go support your fellow females, especially, and, give them shout outs and make sure that people know about this, because I have to say, before I looked it up, I really didn't know about this either. And I've loved sports my whole freaking life. It's something, and it's a shame that this is highlighting 12 of the best collegiate athletes in the country.
It'll be 50 in 3 years. It'll be a 50-year birthday of the Honda Sports Award.
That's crazy.
50 years. That's 50 crazy. Years of nobody knowing that this is going on. So
what was the feeling for you when you were named a winner in your sport? What was that like?
Well, definitely an honor. It was handled a little differently. They brought us in right around the same time at the same time, there was the NCAA convention, I think. Mm-hmm. So the highlight, it was less kind of like specifically highlighted. Now it's really, they make a big production. It's televised. It's amazing. So I think I was a little bit in awe. We didn't get a chance to meet all the other winners. We kind of went in, you were on a panel, they awarded you the cup, and then I think, I had to fly home and go to a track meet or something like that. So, it was really quick, but I have that cup downstairs in my basement, and I have my plate, and looking back now, every time I go back, I went back for the 40th. I was back just a couple weeks ago for the 47th. I'll go back for the 50th. And every time I go, I'm more humbled and honored to be one of the cup winners. So.
I wonder how many women were back to back, like you were in 88 and 89, because that seems like it's a difficult thing to be recognized.
I think, and I was track, and then I was cross country. So it was actually two separate sports.
That's still awesome, though, to be recognized back to back. So definitely something, Dave, we need to be on a mission. We need to be looking out for this, because it's definitely something that, I think would only help grow the sport to, get the exposure to our amazing athletes. So before we go, last thing I want to ask you, we ask all of our guests, if we were to hand you a magic wand and you could wave your wrist and fix the sport of track and field in order to make it more popular, make it lucrative, get athletes like yourself, who were an amazing athlete, paid properly at the pro level, what would you do to fix it?
I had one of my clients ask me this. He's a steeplechaser that just graduated from UPenn. He's doing a 5th year at Duke. We think that there should be a Netflix series about track and field, and take 5 athletes, have a multi-eventer, have a distance runner, have a, and make it like, make a little lifetime kind of movie about their training towards the goal, like Olympics or world champs or whatever, and real life experiences and what they go through and what their training's like, and have one be like a mom, or a husband. It can't be easy to be, to have a child have one being, a full-time in med school, or have real life stories of athletes that have actually done this. And maybe you have to glamorize it a little bit, but I think it would bring a lot of attention to the daily life of what these athletes really go through.
I got to say, as pissed as I was that the Nationals were only on CNBC, that really pissed me off. I did think that the coverage was better. I liked how they had some pre-events, screens, or neither that, or like they interviewed Ryan Krauser prior to him throwing. They interviewed Rob Benjamin warming up, I love
how Ryan Krauser talk. He's like, these other throwers think I'm crazy talking.
I know
right now. He has a good personality. They need to do more.
But it's like, because the only time you ever hear these athletes get interviewed is after their event, and they're exhausted, and you interview them like 5 seconds after, So like, I thought that was cool, and I do like how they had the split screen. I love that they're doing a pole vault or jab, but I don't want to miss 3 laps of the 10K or the 5K.
A lot can happen in those 3 laps, right?
Yes.
It's like, absolutely.
You got someone make a move. So I definitely thought that the coverage was better.
I agree.
But I mean, how
it wasn't prime time. I mean, put it on,
on NBC like it has been every other year,
Yeah.
I mean, or like all these paywalls, like you got to pay for Peacock or Flow Sports, or, like it's hard for the average person. All right. They're like, all these great runners are running in this meet. Where can I find this?
Yeah.
And, but I blame a lot of the athletes too, because it's hard to promote when you don't know if they're going to show up for a race, or, like if they're going to pull out of an event. So it's hard for sponsorships, I guess, to get behind it in that sense. When like, all right, like Sydney is going to run this, and this, and then she can't run or something like that, because there are a lot more injuries in this sport too. So it is hard to predict, but the USATF can do a much better job of getting these athletes out there and just putting things in layman's terms. Like, like have someone actually hold a shot put and be like, wow, this thing is 16 pounds, and this guy's throwing it 70.
He throws it over 20 yards on a football field every time. That's a good way to put it. People don't realize his world record is right around 25 yards, a 16-pound ball. He threw it 25 yards. Most people can't throw a regular football.
No, exactly. They don't even know. I also think, like, and you brought up a point of, people aren't, are you not interested if Sydney McLaughlin is going to drop out? I mean, and maybe it's just because I was that person, like my first, and you asked me like a while ago about my first NCAA championship. I had the slowest time going into that race. I was on the banked track on the very, very, very tippy top, almost falling over the edge. And they were all looking at me like, who's this girl? My PR was like 9:17, and I came out and I won with a 9:06. In Oklahoma City in the Myriad Convention Center or whatever. So, and I remember being out at one of the Olympic trials, and there was a guy in the 800, and I was like, is that guy wearing a t-shirt from American Eagle? And sure enough, he was running in a t-shirt from American Eagle. Didn't have a sponsorship. He was coaching at D3 college. Nobody knew about him. And those are the stories I love. I love when they're that person that just has worked their ass off to be there, and they make it.
The men's hurdle, the guy from D2, missing winning, was unbelievable.
And he has a great career ahead of him, because he was
selling cell phones.
Took 5th in the long jump too.
Yeah.
So I do have to say, I think your idea was beaten. You had to talk to Steeplechaser. Noah Lyles announced on July 5th. July 5th. Dude, he's doing a docuseries with NBC Olympics.
Really?
Noah Lyles, him game up and NBC Olympics. They're working on a docuseries.
Okay.
That'll be coming out. So that could be a good first step to exactly what you were saying. And it's a good guy to start with. Noah Lyles is amazing personality, world champion, really good chance at repeating back at Worlds. So I think that's a good first step. Now, here's what we need, though. We all need to rally around this, because it's fine for him to make this docuseries. But if the own community does not watch, and not even just watch it, hype it up, talk about it, get it out on social media. Coaches like you getting out there and going to your sprinters and saying, watch this. Go, like it takes all of us, because the one thing that, and Dave, you were kind of correct, I think, with the athletes. It's fine for, promoters to do what they need to do. But who's one of the greatest UFC fighters of all time? Conor McGregor. Why? Because he promoted himself. constantly. We always knew when Connor was fighting because he made sure we knew. Athletes are so quiet in track and field. Who knows?
The distance runners are quiet.
But even the sprinters, how are all the sprinters?
That's why I love Ingebrigtsen, because
I love Ingebrigtsen. Shikari.
That people.
Shikari right now is in a great mindset, and I think what she's doing right now is amazing with the way she's talking and things like that.
Because she blew off the media, but
never.
Yeah, you don't blow off the media. They're your bread and butter.
I'm fine with that because what has the media done besides? Okay, sorry about that. She's not wrong because besides every 4 years, what does the media do for runners? Unless you're Usain Bolt, nothing. And Shikari Richardson is amazing. And you know what the last time the media talked to her was? Why did you smoke weed when your grandma died right before a race? So I would blow off the media too. Okay,
right. That's true. She's got a reason to be salty. That's for sure.
So I think we need more athletes to say, I'm going to be at this race. When they know they are going to be there, start promoting themselves.
Absolutely.
I'm going to be there and get together. Even if you don't like each other, with Noah Lyles and Aaron Knight, and I don't know if Aaron Knight and Noah Lyles are friendly, but if they know they're going to the same meet, do a promo together. Like, you want to see us go at it? Come to this meet, be here. It'll be on Flow Track. Go get your Flow Track subscription. Do something. Make it fun for people. Not that we have to guess who's going to be at freaking meets. So I digress.
The kids are watching though, Dave. I don't know about you. My kids are watching that stuff. I mean,
they are. They are. It's this generation of high school kids. They're watching. They know more about pros than a lot of people my age do.
Yeah.
Or even did when I was in high school, in the 90s.
Well, we had to wait for the publications to come out like 2 weeks after a meet.
Listen, I mean, it was all track and field news, things like that, which, I mean, now that kids you waited for a magazine once a month? Yeah. And I checked every ranking in high school because I was that nerd.
I had Ed Scullions and Ed Grants. That's where I was. Yeah. There was websites on AOL, and I
didn't have websites.
I had it, but I was hoping that little dude started to run on AOL because if he ran, then I knew I was good. I knew I was probably getting in. Then Ma picked up the phone, and I was pissed.
So, Vicki, I have one more thing because I love it. Alex is on the fence. The lights in the Diamond League, I think that's great for average fans to be able to see the pace of how fast everyone's running.
Oh, around the track, the record light. You don't like that, Alex?
I think if a record is threatened, fine. If not, turn it off. Because to me, it is the highlighter behind the hockey puck right now. It's a good thing to try, but and again, I just think we're so desperate.
It's the NFL first down mark. That changed NFL.
But the first down marker is not a record-setting thing. It's you got it, move on. It's like, I don't know. I think we're just so starved for anything. And I was happy with what the NBC did. They're finally putting miles per hour in a box. I thought that was great.
Yeah.
The heart rate.
The heart rate.
Yes, I did. Yeah, that was interesting.
They're doing,
but sometimes sometimes the competition is about the competition, and it was about making the world team.
Yes.
So especially when you have trials and finals, the goal is not a world record.
I don't want lights there. I'm talking about Diamond League meets where everyone's going for the world record. But no, like U.S. Nationals, Worlds, Olympics.
Yeah. No, those lights. Diamond League meets, absolutely. I think it makes for and they're at night. So.
I loved watching Ingebrigtsen go for the 2 mile record. Yes. I'm like, oh, he's ahead of pace. And even my fiance's like, he's ahead of the lights. I'm like, yeah,
then you don't need a rabbit, right?
They should have the ability to turn it on and off. I think, even at a national meet, if a thing Mo is at a national meet looking to break a national record, fine, turn the lights on.
Right.
Turn them on in the middle and let a thing chase it or let it chase a thing. You know what I mean? But I don't know. I don't think they're a necessity just because Jakob Ingebrigtsen's in a race. We shouldn't need the lights on.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I don't know. It's a good first step. I'll give it to him. It's a good step. We're so starved for anything. We just want anything as track fans. Like us. Like our sport. Please watch us. Anyway, Vicki, thank you so much for coming on. This was such a fun show.
Yeah, you guys, thanks for having me.
We truly appreciate it. Dave, you have anything last before we hop out of here?
I just love, that we have, last week we had on a high school junior going into her senior year. Now we have on Vicki Huber, who had one of the best storied careers of any distance runner in our country. It's just cool that this sport can offer so many different perspectives and so many different views. And it was an honor having on. I remember watching you race when when I was in high school, and it was wonderful.
Thank you. And the thing about the sport is, I've been running for 42 years. I'm 56. I've been running for 42 years. And that's what I want the kids I coach and the kids that I talk to, my own kids, is that this is a sport you do for life. You can do for life. And it's a love and a passion, and track and field, still love it, have a passion for it. And it's just, it can be a lifestyle, and it keeps you healthy. So
it does. Vicki, give your high school a shout out. Give them some love. Where are you coaching?
I coach at Sun Valley in Aston, Pennsylvania. I did coach at Garnet Valley High School, where my kids went to school, and then I've switched to Sun Valley, and we're kind of rebuilding the program there. So we've already replaced some records on the record board at Sun Valley. So that's been really exciting, and it's a good challenge. Great kids.
So again, thank you so much. She's Vicki Huber-Rudawsky. She is a 2-time Olympian, 8-time NCAA champion, United States champion, a resume, a pioneer, trailblazer for a lot of women that are running today. So pay homage if you can. Go say hello on social media if you find her. And definitely everyone look out for the Honda Sport Award and go support it. Support the women in collegiate sports because they deserve it. Like, share, follow, subscribe, rate 5 stars here. If you enjoyed it, spread a word of mouth. Find us on the socials at Talking in Ovals and send us your PBs. I don't care if you're just running a 5K and on the road and you run 42 minutes and you ran 41. Send it to us. We want to know. We want to give you a shout out because running is like that. All right. Everybody, thank you so much for listening. We will be back next week. So long.